Neat. All right. Hi, folks. I wanted to show you one of my favorite video games. Not of all time, but it's one of my most appreciated and returned to games. It's called Gnomoria, as you can well see. The premise basically revolves around you shepherding, and through no real direct control, trying to make sure that the gnomes that you're given charge of actually are able to survive. So now, because I'm not a new player in any sort of way, I'm just gonna kind of set things up the way that I want them. And that's that one. Kingdom size is definitely going to be huge. Difficulty is going to end up being custom. That being said, I'm going to allow goblins able to tunnel under defenses and walls, so that's fine. I'm going to place that. Select the option that increases the enemy strength over time. So it's going to, the way that I'm going to set it up is that the enemy strengths are going to be really low to start with, but they're going to ramp upwards, not quickly, but they're going to ramp upwards to a point where it's nigh on impossible to stop. So it's definitely necessary, otherwise you can just kind of generally go through it. But that being said, to be able to handle even a reasonable amount of playtime, you need to set the metal depth and the metal amounts, because you're not going to be able to survive with just like leather armor and stone weapons for extended periods of time. You need a certain amount of metal, and yeah, you're just not going to get it unless you set the metal depth to shallow and the metal amount to I would like to put it at abundant. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. In this case I will, just because the kingdom name is the Royal Heartlessness. Alright, so we'll just generate and go on to that. And yeah, that's going to take a little bit of while. Let's see, what else can I say about this game in general? I love the sort of retro music to it. It's very relaxing after a while, I guess you could say. What I mean by no direct contact or direct commands is that you're not really going to be able to tell one gnome where to go. You can't like say, I want you to go over here and do this task over there. What you have to do is set up, basically you have to plan. You have to plan your needs and wants and set in priorities and zones and workshops that have different priorities. And you'll see more as I get into it. The complexity that is required to actually have a working colony. That being said, all it takes is really like one really bad thing to have happen that you can't adapt to, and you're fucked. You're just fucked. But anyone who's a fan of game logistics and logistical building with a low like combat sense or need for some sort of struggle to it is gonna potentially love this game, because it's all about logistics. being able to organize and plan and think ahead for what you're going to need and identify trends and what's going to happen, you know, soon further on furthest from now. Be able to stack a hierarchy of needs. So, yeah, we'll see. I'm drinking, see, it's a finger of Bright Brothers White, a single malt. It's very pine pitch. Yeah. Tastes like trees. I don't know if that's a good thing. Oh, one thing I ought to mention about the maps is that here in a moment that you're going to see the map itself kind of spread out in front. Well, the map goes from like 0 all the way down to 99, and they're just like stacks of copy paper on top of each other, just full levels all the way down that you can mine and down. And I believe you can go up to like 16 levels above the ground floor. Yeah. Building wise and able to. Sometimes there's be mountains or hills that reach up that high. That may have changed since the last time I played this. I'm not really sure. So we'll see. But needless to say, there's a lot of space, and the further down that you go, and the further down that you mine, the more chance you're going to run into something that's very predatory and dislikes your gnomes very much. So it behooves you to move quickly but cautiously.
Yippee-yay, there'll be no wedding bells for today. 'Cause I got spurs that jingle, jangle, jingle, jingle, jangle, as I go riding merrily along. Jingle, jangle.
What's up, nation? I'm Pi, and this is when I normally give you the Friday safety brief. But this Sunday marks the 15th anniversary of the attacks on the World Trade Center in New York. That day, September 11th, 2001, was a day that changed every American's life, some more than others. By the end of the day, 2,993 people were killed, including 343 firefighters, 60 police officers, 8 paramedics, and more than 6,000 people injured. I came to the United States of America in 2003. A couple of years later, when I was able to join the US Army, I did. And I did so knowing full well that I would probably be deployed to Iraq. And I was. I deployed to Iraq once and Afghanistan twice. A lot of our brothers and sisters that joined around that time done so because they wanted to be a part of the retribution for the attacks on September 11th. The point I'm trying to make is before you go out this weekend and do something stupid, stop, take a step back, and think if your actions are going to have a direct impact on you or the people around you, whether you...
This is the start by which everything else is judged by, pretty much. Alright, so I'll scroll all the way up, and it looks like we're going... Alright, we'll stop at 16. You see up here, top left there with the depth? Yeah. We'll stop right there, and we'll just look at what we got. Right now everything's paused. Everything's stopped. We can kind of focus and plan on where we want. And honestly, just like surviving the wild, the very first thing that you want to find is water. And so I'm going to go ahead and start planning ahead many several in-game years ahead so far and going, okay, yeah, I've only got what? I think that you start out with what, 6 gnomes right now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Thought you started out with more than that, but 5. Okay, 5 and a yak. So, is it 2 yaks? Yes, 2 yaks. It's a male and a female. Okay, yeah, it was 6 gnomes. So, yeah, I've got enough water, say, like right in here, the center area, and then right in over here, these other smaller areas. I've got enough water to last. See how deep they are? Just a couple levels down. That's enough to feed maybe like 10, 15 gnomes for an extended period of time, because rain is going to be able to replenish all of that fast enough to be in and of itself enough to make for a lifelong sustaining process. Now, these two over here, it looks like they're full of, this is right over here with depth 0. Basically, we're looking at the ground floor. And so you can kind of get a profile for what the hill structures look like. And right now, I'm really loving this hill structure right in here. How it goes all the way around, and it's relatively defensible in the sense of that it's isolatable. That I'll explain more of that later. Right now it doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is that we've got enough water between these 3 locations to make for a very long-term process. Fantastic. Okay, water's done. Shelter, because we get cold and hot and rained on and stuff, not so much of an issue with this game. However, 3 things go into that. 1, you need a place to put things that's defensible, that, bears and honey badgers and goblins aren't just gonna wander in from left field and just take all your stuff. So the 2 ways of going about that is, of course, creating buildings or burrowing. It's easiest to do early game to burrow, so that's what I tend to do. That's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to set up my first layer of insulated area being that ground floor, and I'll show that here in a second. Number 2 out of that is harvestable resources. Now, I don't know if you can see. I can zoom in here just a little bit. The zoom itself is pretty rough, but yeah, these little red bushes right here, not the orange ones. The little red bushes with the green leaves, those are strawberries. The ones that are white berries or white things, those are cotton. Simple. Yeah, I mean, you can probably, most gamers who have any concept of logistics games can guess that, okay, one of those is food and the other one is some sort of fiber product that you'll need, which is true. And then secondary, you've got lumber, which are all these trees, and then you've got fruit trees, which are arguably very important because the fruit trees go back after you harvest them. Of course, the fruit trees go back. Everything else that you cut down or harvest does not go back in any way. So you have to either do a farm or manually plant them, or you can actually do a grove with trees, but that's kind of a later game issue. I'll show you what I mean. So for the moment, all we're going to do is start setting up our gnomes' professions and getting our burrow on. Man, there's so much to explain. Okay, well, I guess we got to pick our front door. Front door is going to be the easiest thing for me, and the easiest thing to pick in the sense of it's going to be the place that's hardest to get by something that's going to try and eat me, essentially. For the moment, we're going to just right-click terrain, mine, wall. Oh, no. Terrain, remove ramp. See, every single one of these little areas that's right here is a ramp that moves up. And so if we have those there, we can't necessarily mine into this space. So right now I've selected these ramps to be demolished by the miners that we have, people who have the mining job selected. Now clicking on here in population, this overview allows me to show that, oh, I have 9 rows. Okay. And 2 are builders, 2 are farmers, 2 are miners, 1 is the rancher, and the 2 are woodcutters. Now, currently they start at just the basic professions, which there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 professions. This changes rapidly. For the moment, it's not important that I don't suggest you start dealing with trying to customize your professions quite yet, because you can easily accidentally either waste your time or screw something up royally. What I do suggest you do is rename your gnomes with a hint as to what they are, because they started out with a preference, i.e. a skill already in building. See, Claw already has a 24 and a 27 in the things that are involving building, and Farmer already has all of those as the example. So they already start off with a skill preference towards those. I'll explain it, but for the moment, just go ahead and rename. You can just go to click on the person and say build. Yeah, I haven't figured out whether it's best to put it before the name or after, and it's I haven't decided which one ends up being better. It seems to work the same, because you end up not being able to group them by first name, so it doesn't freaking matter. Ah, damn it! I don't remember what his name was. Wimbledon. Minor. Back. Why we're doing this is essentially I'm going to be very shortly changing all of these people who are not miners into farmers, so that we can start picking some stuff and laying down some crops, because that's one of the most important things to do, is to get wheat in the ground first off, first day, period. Because if you don't, you've got like only a little bit of time to spare in the stores that you start with, versus when your 2 yaks start starving because there's not enough hay. Because they'll only eat hay because they're digital yaks. There's no better explanation. So, rancher, woodcutters, woodcutters end up being mostly like carpenters, but they're also foresters and people who cut down and trim trees and pick sprouts, but also the ones I usually use is carpenters for building structures. So they're going to have a multifaceted they're gonna have a multifaceted time. Getting into these are all the professions and all the possible professions, and you can have certain ones mix and match, and it is a very intricate system with many intermeshing points that branch off to other ones. So I'm not going to jump into this right away. I'm just going to gloss over it because really you don't need it in the very, in the first like month per se. This overview right here is very helpful because it'll show you how many people are currently assigned to what job you potentially have. So if you're kind of like you're seeing not many things are getting like cooked, well, you thought you had say the ranchers as also part-time cooks. So you go on here, you look at how many cooks you got, and then you find out, oh, well, shit, I only got one guy cooking, and he's the tailor. So somewhere along the line, you fucked up in the roles and said, okay, the ranchers who are supposed to be cooking aren't. So you can fix that. You can kind of troubleshoot what's going on with that. Over on the left-hand side, you got your population, your deceased, your idle, your injured, default uniform. You don't have to worry about that. Population cap's not important right now. So, all right. So for the moment, excuse me. For the moment, we're going to take everybody down here and knock them down into farmer. Rancher needs to be there because we need to do some stuff with them. Farmer and farmer. Okay. Now, all of that was setting up to do this one thing, which is start clearing this area. So you're going to go agriculture. Okay, clearing this area because if I decided to lay down a farm, agriculture, farm, and try and make a big square for a farm. See all those red spots? That spot where nothing's going to grow because there's already something there. So all that's fucking useless. So like any good farming industry, we got to start clear cutting that first off. So we just right click, agriculture, forage, and it's going to get rid of all those little bushes. The strawberries, the cotton, which is good because it frees up not only the cotton, but it also frees up the seeds that goes along with it. Foraging will also pull fruit off of fruit trees, which you can see down here in this like middle area. One thing I will note is that you see, I don't know if you can see the cursor here. Let's see if I can zoom in. Okay, this cursor right here where it's green, that's something that one of my guys here in the center has already claimed. Meaning, it's considered having someone headed towards it to accomplish it. All the ones in yellow are the ones that are currently in waiting. That'll become important a long time from now, but you may or may not remember that. So, alright. So we have our miners ready to start pulling all these ramps off. So we can actually get into like the meat of this area. And we've got the guys that are going to be foraging. Okay, how do we get them to forage? Agriculture over here a little bit. Get rid of all these standing like ground bushes right here. Okay, perfect. All right, so the very last thing I'm gonna do before I set my guys going is I'm going to set up the pasture for my yaks. I set this up specifically because I've learned the very hard way of if you don't set up a pasture for your yaks, first off, they will just wander all over the freaking map. So you just set it up, you designate it just like you do a farm or any other zoned area. You specify what animal, straw is their food, it shows you some details, and it has the priority, meaning it's 5 priority, which is right in the middle. It's not above anything, it's not below anything. So right now it's fine. A 5 priority might as well be a 1 priority because it's the only priority. Totally fine. Later on, when you have multiple pastures going on, then you deal with different priorities. I'll show you that in a while. Who is texting me? That's... I don't know what's going on there. Yep. Nope. Alright. Let's get this going. And we'll start it now. Oh yeah. It saves right at the start, so that's great. I have currently set save every 2 days. Every 2 mornings it saves, and I habitually save myself, so it shouldn't be too much of an issue. So let's just hit the play. And they off we go. See, my rancher is already taking this guy over. There we go. Otherwise, they'll just wander around the entire map and potentially get killed by bears or badgers or whatever else is out there. Because there are hostile animals that spawn on the map at various times. Okay, see this guy, pause it here, right? See this guy right here, he's been wandering around ever since he dropped these guys off, the 2 yaks, and then he milked them. That's where the milk came from. That's right there. The rancher no longer has tasks in his job description to complete. Thus, he just kind of wanders around. So once you actually have like some dining rooms and some other stuff, they'll actually go to the recreational areas to kind of like lounge around if they don't have jobs. But for the moment, we don't have people to spare. So the rancher, who's listed as idle under the profession's assign menu, is going to go into farmer. And we're going to take the 2 guys that say wood. One of them is going to go back into the woodcutter because we need to start taking down some of these trees. Agriculture. Now, cutting the clipping from these trees makes it so that you essentially have, it's like, it basically means go get the seed from the tree so that I can later on and cut it down and then like plant a new one if I so choose, which you will run out of trees if you don't like self-moderate. Where's the other wood? Wood. There he is. So, woodcutters. Okay. Woodcutters, go. You can make your farmers what's called a horticulturist, which means they will also clip trees and plant trees. It's very useful later on, especially when you have a large amount of farmers and not that many carpenters or woodcutters. Okay, let's hit spacebar here because we've gotten rid of all of our ramps that were in this general area. Great. Now let us start mining out a good region that we can use as a common front door. When I used to play this game more heavily, back when it was in development and I was deployed overseas and I had to have something to play that I could play offline, I used to have a lot more metrics about tile size and things that I would use, and some of the equations that I would use to get kind of an ideal size for area for different workshops. But yeah, somewhere along the line I've forgotten and lost everything I had about that. So sometimes I can kind of remember something like, oh yeah, I used to do this, and this with that. But for the most part, I just go with the feel of how things are right now, which is fine. Some people would criticize me in the sense that I'm digging out areas really close to the outer wall. So if I get attacked by goblins that are tunnel happy, or I miss killing off one of their tunnelers real quick, then I could potentially have one spring up in my backyard, essentially. And where that is definitely true. This whole area is going to be like one of the more major common areas where all of my workshops are going to be. So that's where the mainstay of my gnomes are going to be in a day-to-day sense. So I'm not really worried about. Essentially, they're going to be breaking into like the main secured area for my kingdom. So that's really going to go badly for them. Until they get ogres, and then it's going to be a shit show. But yeah, for the most part, I'm not worried about. I wasn't worried over there about wall size. We'll figure that shit out. That being said, I've never had an actual like sneak attack work from one of the Goblin Kingdoms via a tunneler. I've seen tunnelers and I've killed tunnelers. Never seen one actually tunnel. So, we'll see. And the last but not least, the connector, and we are good. As soon as I get most of this dirt, which is the brown stuff that these guys are digging through. Our farmers are idle. Aren't they? Oh, the farmers already do clip trees. That's lovely. Oh, that's lovely. Okay. The woodcutters are the one that's idle. I remember it working like that. Okay. Alright, so some of these trees down here, they've already been clipped. So you can tell because they have that kind of like toothpick look to them. So we can go ahead and highlight them, meaning their seed is already down on the ground. So they're good to be replenished. I'm not actually losing anything by cutting these now. In fact, I'm freeing up space. So yeah, get some of the wood down on the ground because our next set of steps is actually going to be freaking. Well, as soon as we hit some stone, we're going to start making some workshops. So. Oh, this being said, this is kind of an older game. It's been in development for quite some time. I think it's a really small development company. I'm inordinately proud of what they've done because they really have not necessarily like great graphics or anything in particular, but they have really in-depth gameplay that has just kept me coming back again and again and again to try and not lose all my gnomes again and again and again. Yeah, it's inordinately compelling. And if you're someone who likes to be able to save everybody and like get everything done that needs to be done and like not have too many like civilian deaths, really putting it one way or another, yeah, I mean it's gonna be a pretty fun game for you. Well, no, I'm sorry. It's going to be frustrating, and it's going to test all of your patience and every bit of willpower that you've got to be able to finish the freaking thing. So, you know, be that as it may. Now, I've selected a large amount of area right here so that we can kind of... Basically, I'm just cheating. I'm just trying to keep my farmers busy up until the point in which I have farms, which should be, actually... think about it right about now. So we're in the end of the first day. So agriculture farm. Do right up next to the yaks because they're the ones that are going to eat the freaking hay. So I'm going to do that section. Wheat. Perfect. Then starting in the other section, go across, and then starting right there is going to be right there. So that way it kind of bridged around. See if you can kind of mouse over it and see that there's a color difference in between the yak farm right there and then the wheat farm right there. So. Two trees just out of nowhere. Put them. Must have symmetry. Oh man. Pasture. Get these pulled in. Pause it for the moment. Agriculture, fell trees. Now I'm hearing the ting 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 of, yes, stone. Perfect. This is stone. This looks like serpentine. Yeah? Okay, perfect. See, every time they mine out a little section, it drops a little nugget of whatever that section was. So it goes for a 1-for-1 swap. For 1 square equals 1 drop of, be it stone or dirt, clay, any number of things. And there's a lot of different types of stones, you see. Alright, well, it's almost time for me to go off and start cooking dinner. So I'm going to stop this video right about here. There's still so much to do, and we've only been at this for like a little under an hour. I'm going to fast forward through some of the parts that were all like slow, like all the loading screens and stuff like that. But yeah, so you should maybe I'll play after I've cooked dinner, and we'll take some more video and see if anybody likes that. Alright, so, alright, cheers.